Commence primary ignition.
Hey there, friends, fans, and collectors. Welcome to another episode of Binary Sunset Review. I am Mike, and today we're coming at you with the newest wave of vintage collection figures that are hitting shelves in Targets and Walmarts out there. Let's get going.
Clankers! All batteries return fire.
Before I begin, I want to remind everyone to hit the subscribe button below. It really helps support the channel, and it lets you stay on the forefront of the best Star Wars news and reviews as soon as I make them. This is the first of the vintage collection line of the 2021 year, and it's exciting that we're seeing them in shelves before the end of 2020. And they're going to be joined on shelves by other exclusives like the Din Djarin figure, as well as the Remnant Stormtrooper, and the newly announced and newly seen Black Series Archive figures. Now, this is very exciting, some really cool stuff, and we should be seeing big shipments of these around the US very shortly to coincide with the end of the year. These are all brand new figures. We are getting 5 of them on different card backs. Now, Vader is, as I know, an old figure. We've all have several Vaders, but this is the first time seen on a Rogue One card back, and he does have some unique looking articulation. I'm actually curious once I get this open to see how he moves and how he acts, but these are all brand new figures, 3 of them being from The Mandalorian, and Captain Rex for the first time on a vintage collection card back with the Clone Wars title. Now, this is really exciting. Let me know in comments below which one of these you're most excited about. These were up for pre-order, obviously, and all the other places. They sold out very quickly. If you did get a pre-order in, you should be seeing these figures in the early parts of January and maybe February. I will have links below, so be sure to click those links where they still are able to be pre-ordered, and you can get yours there if you don't want to go out shopping. I previously mentioned that these figures can be found using their DPCI codes at Target. I'll list those below, as well as the sites that are still open for pre-order. It is fantastic to see that we are getting an expansion into the vintage collection figures with 5 or more debuting at a time, multiple waves to a year, and supporting modern lines of shows as well as fan favorite shows. Now, I know that there's been a dip in vintage collection, but I believe that I can confidently say that the vintage collection feels like it's back. So, I mean, it feels like it's 2010 again with all the exclusives, all the awesome vehicles we're getting. And even if they're not out of the park home runs, we are getting a variation in different play sets that we're seeing out there. Real exciting time, but let me know what you think. But the vintage collection's back. Here we have the front of the box for the vintage collection Captain Rex. We're joined by other members of the 501st Division, the vintage collection Anakin Skywalker, and our new vintage collection 5s figure. Now, Captain Rex is a fan favorite and amazing character that was introduced in the Clone Wars animated series and expanded upon in Rebels and further shows. He has never before been seen in the vintage collection card back, and it's great that he's able to join the rest of these figures in 375 scale. As we flip it around, we get a nice view of the vintage collection back with the Star Wars logo and the double silver piping around the current figures in last wave and this wave. We have the VC number, which is 182 up at the top, the vintage collection logo right there in the center, the Hasbro logo and Disney logo at the bottom, and a bunch of legal nonsense right there in the middle. Now, I can't wait to get this guy out of package. Let's free him from his bubble prison here. Here we have first impressions for the vintage collection Captain Rex figure. And I gotta say, just right off the bat, getting him off the package, I am so happy that they are expanding upon the 501st and Clone Wars figures. Now, Rex has been, a favorite of mine for a very long time, and it's absolutely wonderful to see him in vintage collection form. And he is painted and decked out to all the details that we expect from this collection. He has nice shades of blue. There's pretty insane. I'm going to do a close-up on some of his armor and some of the painting and the detail because it is very unique, and it dives to a depth that I was hoping with the vintage collection that we'd see that is unseen on screen, unable to be seen in the animated versions. So it's really nice when these figures translate almost better to their live action form like this. In a universe full of individuals that look exactly like him, Rex is a unique character for a lot of different reasons. Now, he's a special character in the Clone Wars, a leading protagonist that embodies all of the 501st and their feelings, and it's really nice that his armor and the paint scheme itself reflect his unique individuality. Now, we can see this even further taken to a different detail in the Vintage Collection painting, with even more tick marks on his arm. They extend to his helmet, his blue shade that he shares with all of his brothers in the 501st has this really, really nice gold tint around the chest and around the helmet. It is something that, you kind of see in the animated bits, and then in this detail, you can really, really, really tell that it actually is a nice, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. So it's really cool that things that are, slightly hinted on in an animated world, when translated to the 375 plastic version, have been done very, very artistically well. Now, these tick marks on his helmet and on his arms, I'm not quite sure what they signify, and I don't think any of us are. They might be droids, they could be drops, they could be planets he's liberated, they could be systems, starships. It doesn't matter. They look really, really, really cool, and they are down his arms, his hands, and his head. So it's clear that he has some kind of internal bonding with this armor and some internal game that he's continuing on that gets him through the Clone Wars. Now, he has the comma that has the blue markings on it that also denote that he was ARC trained. This is also demonstrated by his weapons of choice, and that are the two DC-15 pistols. Those pistols and his skills and ability to use them all come from Jango Fett, which is the base clone. His helmet is a really cool meld of the Phase 1 and the Phase 2 Clone Trooper armor. He has the T-visor in the center that is a nod to Mandalorian culture, the Mandalorian training, and also the Kaminoan's first phase of the clone armor. He has a rangefinder on his side, which also denotes his Mandalorian training, as well as the comma, which gives him ARC training and lets him wield his weapons of choice, which are the DC-15 pistols. His helmet is also decorated with the rarely seen, but still very, very cool Jag eyes. Now, this is the kind of up-down design that's above the eyes that is a nod to Mandalorian culture and his Mandalorian training. The Jag is a big, giant, fearsome bird lizard that in Mandalore you hunt, and if you can hunt it, it is a kind of great, great honor. But it's also symbolic for you being ever watchful, keeping an eye open, and just being a good hunter and warrior in general. This is a nice nod to the Mandalorian culture that was, hidden in plain sight, that existed throughout the Clone Wars and Dave Filoni's previous works. Captain Rex comes equipped with his DC-15 pistols. Now, I kind of wish he came with some more of the clone armament, but in his defense, he really isn't seen using much more other than these pistols throughout the show. Let's talk some articulation for Captain Rex. I am pleased to announce that he has some of the changes to the Vintage Collection figures that give a lot of advanced articulation. Now, especially, we've been having trouble in previous years with armored figures and their ability to put their arms up in T. Now, he has his pauldrons that are secured on the joint, so he does have a pretty good range of ability to lift his hands in the air like he doesn't care. It's pretty nice. He also has a swiveling elbow joint as well as a wrist joint that goes in and out. He also has a swiveling elbow joint as well as a wrist joint that goes in and out. You can give him quite the little sassy wrist there and other kinds of articulation. Now, moving on down, he doesn't have as much of the hip flexor that we see with other figures, but he does have minor Shakira hips. He does have the ability to turn in his waist, and some of these restrictions to the articulation are strictly for his armored carapace around him. Now, with his legs go on up, like they should. He's got perfect little knee joints that also swivel out. He has ankle joints also, that of course you should be gentle with when first moving them because some of them are stiff, but they do articulate pretty nicely. Now, he does have some of the changes to the knee design, so his knee armor is part of the leg armor in the bottom, which gives him more of an ease to bend and take a knee. But some really nice articulation changes. Now, his helmet does not come off. I do wish it did. Of course, we all know what he looks like, but I wish his helmet was removable. Now, he does have the ability to bob his neck. It's not as advanced as I would like it, but he can inflect with his neck and with his helmet a little bit. Cool to see. Great articulation, as is expected from the Vintage Collection. Now that I have him out of the box, he looks particularly amazing next to the other 501st figures that we've seen across different lines. Now, his colors are crisp, his paint is really nice, the detail is insanely well done, and the posability is pretty great. Now, this figure is hitting shelves now. It was up for pre-order. It's still up for pre-order on a couple different sites. I will leave those listed below. I will also post the DPCI codes, but one of the bigger pros has to be the accessibility of seeing more prints of Clone Wars figures on the shelves now. Now, I know it's hard to come by Vintage Collection figures in general, but I think it's really nice that the main wave is being supported by more figures in the Clone Wars and more clones in general, because that's what the fans want and that's what we love. When anyone says Clone Wars, you can't think of a more favorite clone than Captain Rex. Now, it was great to see his final arc in the last season of the Clone Wars, and it's really nice to have his character immortalized in a Clone Wars Vintage Collection card. Now, this is a really, really famous character. It is going to fly off shelves, and if you are thinking about maybe wanting him, my advice is to definitely put your order in now for a pre-order, because it has taken a lot of years for this figure to actually see us, especially in the Vintage Collection wave and in this quality. And there's no telling when we'll see him again, and we know that the aftermarket price for clones just goes up and up. So definitely recommend this figure, definitely pick up your own, follow the links I have posted below. Your likes and views are really appreciated. Please comment below, we can get a discussion going about these figures that we love to collect. If you haven't already done so, hit the subscribe button below. Thanks for watching another episode of Binary Sunset Review. I've been Mike. Be sure to tune back in here for the best Star Wars news and reviews as soon as I make them. Whether you bring your bounties in cold or hot, have a great day out there, stay safe, stay sane, and remember, the Force will be with you, always.
I'm just a simple man trying to make my way in the universe.